Hello, people, and welcome back to today's live stream. I hope we're all doing well. The last day of August, and hopefully we'll end August off with a bang with this live stream. And yeah, today we're going to be doing an interesting one. I'm going to be speaking to a dental student who is going to her 5th year of dental school, and we're just going to be talking about the differences and the similarities between the courses and answering any questions that you guys have about admissions, about student life, and more. So make sure that whilst you're watching this live stream, first of all, that you give it a fat thumbs up, and second of all, that you send in all the questions that you have, and we'll try our best to answer them. So without further ado, I'm going to switch to the interview scene, and our guest is going to introduce who she is. How have you been? How's your journey been to dentistry? Yeah, just tell us a bit about yourself, Priscilla.
Hi everyone. Fran, can you hear me?
I can hear you. You're good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, we're good. Okay. Hi. My name is Priscilla, and I'm going into my final year studying dentistry at the University of Leeds. And so I've been really enjoying it so far. I wanted to do dentistry when I was going into year 12. So I decided 3 months before the application process that I wanted to do dentistry. Before that, I was considering basically anything in healthcare that would allow me to have a positive impact in the lives of people. And I arranged lots of work experience during the summer of year 12. I was really quite interested in medicine, actually. So I arranged a lot of like surgery work experience and like work experience at a GP. And as luck would have it, during one of my work experience, shadowing a surgeon, I saw them taking out a tooth, like extracting a tooth. And I thought that was really interesting. And like during the operation, I was able to talk to 2 dental students, and they were just talking to me about dentistry, about how like it has a good work-life balance, about how you get to take care of patients, and like really just showing me how it's such a good course and a good career to go down. And so when I went home, I just started Googling about dentistry, and that was when I decided that dentistry was for me, and that's what I wanted to study at university. So yeah.
Amazing. And it's quite interesting that you spoke about like how with dentistry you tend to have a better work-life balance in terms of like when you qualified and the hours. And it just takes me back to a funny story when I was visiting my dentist. You know how you go like every 6 months for like a checkup. And I remember this must have been before year 13, before you actually applied to university. And I was debating whether medicine, whether something else. And I remember the dentist trying to convince me to go to dentistry. He was just like, it's faster, more money in it, and like better hours. And I just remember that like image in my head. But like unlike you, I never considered dentistry like as an area of what I wanted to do, but I'm really excited to like learn more about it and see, because I've heard it's very, very similar to medicine and it overlaps in so many areas. So yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Like a lot of people, they go straight for medicine, and they don't really consider like other courses that could be and like just as great in terms of affecting patients' life in a very positive way. And so I just saw that dentistry was a bit like medicine in terms of like owning your care over patients, but also you get to have a good work-life balance as well. Like after work, that's it, and there's no on-call unless maybe you work in a hospital. Like after your 9 to 5, you can just go home and relax. So that was one thing that really like pulled me towards dentistry.
Yeah, that's so true. There's so many like pros to it. Yeah, amazing. And kind of like, what was your journey in terms of applying to dentistry? Because the process is very similar to medicine in the sense that you have to do admissions tests, a lot of work experience, which you spoke about, and also you've got the early application deadline as well. Did you feel like supported by your school? What kind of school did you go to, and how did that affect your application?
Yeah, so I'll speak about the application process. So you have to do your work experience. Usually most universities ask for 2-week work experience at a general dental practice. I know now it might be a bit different because a lot of people are struggling to get work experience. It's been really difficult because of Corona and everything like that. It's been quite lenient. But when I was applying, you had to have at least 2 weeks work experience at a general dental practice. And then you also have to do the UCAT. for a lot of universities in the UK. To get into dentistry, you have to do the UCAT and also get a really competitive score. For one university, that's the one I go to, you have to do the BMAT. So I ended up doing the UCAT and also the BMAT. So like year 13 was such a stressful time for me, but I got through it. So yeah, you have to do the BMAT if you want to go to the University of Leeds. And then the application deadline is on the 15th of October, just like medicine. You have to hand in your UCAS application. And then you start to get interviews after that. The interviews are like MMIs, so multiple mini interviews. And that's where they're like different stations and they test you on different things. So things like communication, empathy. And also in dentistry, they test you on your like manual dexterity, because like being able to use your hands is a big thing in dentistry. Like you need to love working with your hands. You don't have to be good before you start dentistry, but you need to show that you love working with your hands. And so that's a part of something that they test you on in the application process. And then you get your offer if you're successful. So that's like a brief timeline of what the application process looks like. For me, the application process was slightly different because I also applied to the University of Leeds through an access scheme. So the University of Leeds has something called Access to Leeds. And so during year 13, they give you a module to do. And when you do that module, it's not a very intensive module to do, but it's something that's supposed to help you when you get to university. So when you do that module, the standard offer for dentistry is supposed to be AAA, but with Access to Leeds, the offer can be reduced to ABB in biology, chemistry, and another A level. So like that is really good because it helps you. It sort of takes a lot of pressure off you during your A levels. But to be able to qualify for that access scheme, you need to meet a certain list of criteria. So just have a look for different access schemes, not just in Leeds, but just across the country that can help you to get into the course that you may want to get into. And you never know, you might qualify for a couple. I know that King's College have like the K+ scheme that help to mentor students living in Greater London. I know that Manchester have their own access scheme, but you have to be living in Manchester to do it. And like Bristol have their own access scheme. So just have a look at the different ones around and see whether you qualify for them. I think, Fran, you asked me about my school and like what that was like.
Yeah, go
on. So I actually moved schools from year 11 to year 3 to A levels. I moved from like just a normal school to like a grammar school because I really wanted to I really wanted the best opportunity I could get for myself to get into the degree that I wanted to get into, which is dentistry. Dentistry is very competitive. And so that was a very interesting and just like intense, environment. But thankfully I was able to get through it. But yeah, it was quite an interesting environment, A levels. I do not envy the guys that are doing their A levels right now. I know that things are really, really different, and I just like wish them all the best.
Yeah, honestly, same here. Like this year has just been so chaotic and so unprecedented, as old Boris would say. It hasn't been easy at all, and especially with like the results day scandal, it's just been horrendous. But hopefully things work out. Hopefully things work out and the government fix up, because honestly, people don't need more stress after like everything that's happened. But that was such a good answer. Like you were just saying so many things, answering so many questions within that one answer.
Yeah.
And I noted down a few things to like pick up on because I knew otherwise I'd forget. But a few of the things, like amazing thing. Actually, before I actually go on, you mentioned so many amazing resources when you were talking and gave so many advice. So I just wanted to recommend people to your channel if you are interested in dentistry, or even if you're interested in medicine. As Priscilla has demonstrated, the application processes are so similar, and as we'll talk about later, the courses overlap in so many ways. If you're a medic, a dentist, any student watching this, go and subscribe to Priscilla's channel right now. I'll put the details in the description bar below, and they should be on screen when Priscilla speaks. You should see it on like a MacBook thingy-majiggy. But yeah, so let's progress. So things I wanted you to kind of like elaborate on is the access courses, you spoke a bit about how like you did the access to Leeds course, and that was like one of the universities that didn't require you to come from that particular area in order for you to do that access course.
Yeah.
Do you think going to the access course really incentivized you to go on and apply to that university? Because I did a similar thing at Birmingham University. I did routes to medicine, and they offered the same kind of thing, that if I were to apply to that university, they'd reduce my offer, which was absolutely amazing. I didn't end up applying in the end because it was way too close. But how do you think going to the access scheme shaped your application journey?
Yeah, I see you didn't want to live at home, did you?
Mm-mm.
No, you
Please,
didn't want
let me
to
just
home, no.
zip my
No.
mom's listening outside, and she'll actually...
Yeah, like different universities will have their access schemes, and like the main reason for it is just to level out the playing field a bit, because a lot of students, it is harder for them to get into university, and sometimes they don't realize until you start to look into the criteria that they require for the access scheme, you know. Like one of them might be the school that you went to for GCSE didn't even get the national average in the whole of the UK, so your school actually did worse than that, and you know, you would never know this until you researched about it, but anyway, so different universities have their access schemes. I didn't feel like the Leeds one incentivized me to go to Leeds, because there were other things that I really liked about the University of Leeds. Like, for example, like the dentistry course is a really, really good course. So Leeds is the only university that offers a master's as part of the 5-year course. So Fran, I need to show you my degree title. Like, it says like Masters of Dentistry, of Bachelor, of like there's lots of things going on in there, but it's just to say that throughout the 5 years, I don't just get a dental degree, I also get a master's, and I also get an oral science degree as well, which is like really good to help you to stand out a little bit. And like if I wanted to go into research after studying dentistry, like that will really prepare me to do that. So that was one of the things that helped me to pick Leeds. Another thing is that it far away from home. Like Leeds is 4 hours away from where I live. I'm from London, so it just meant that I could be really independent compared to if I lived at home. Leeds is a Russell Group university. Like one of the things I always used to tell myself when I was growing up is that I want to go to a Russell Group university. I wasn't one of those people that had a university in my heart that, oh, I really want to go to this particular one. I just said, if I can get myself into a Russell Group university, which is, you know, really well recognized around the world, I will be happy. And I managed to do that, getting myself into the University of Leeds. So yeah.
Yeah, and for people who kind of don't know what Russell Group universities are, they're almost like the UK equivalent to Ivy League universities in the US, right? And you did so well to end up getting into Leeds, because I know just like medicine, dentistry is incredibly competitive, and like Leeds must have been on the top of your heart for you to sit the BMAT just for that university, but you ended up doing so well and getting into the university, and now you're doing your final year, which is incredible. I can't wait to be in your position.
It's absolutely crazy. Like I cannot
How does that actually feel?
I just remember being in first year, looking up to the fifth years, thinking like, "Wow, you guys have been here for so long," and now I'm in that situation. It's crazy, but I'm just I thank God. I'm so grateful for like making it this far, and like by the grace of God, next year you're gonna be looking at a whole graduate
qualified dentist. Man said degree, master's degree, dentist. Oral health degree, dentistry degree.
Oral science, everything,
Crazy. Man said 3 degrees in one. Crazy. Absolutely impressive. But you're so hardworking, and we're like all rooting for you, like to just get through. And yeah, final question before we actually start answering people's questions. I know people are eagerly waiting. And this is a bit of a tangent, but you mentioned that in your interviews for dentistry, they test your manual dexterity, which makes sense because there's a lot of like procedures that you have to do as a dentist. And I was wondering, what kind of form does that take in interviews? Like, how do they actually...
I have a horror story about what happened to me during one of my interviews. I made a video about this.
We're listening.
So check out my YouTube channel, and I go into a lot of detail about it. But essentially, they set you a task to do. It depends on the university you go to. So when I was applying to Leeds, the manual dexterity task that they wanted us to do was origami. Okay, so we just had to follow a set of instructions and like make something that was origami related. And then the person that was watching you during your MMI would then assess you afterwards. They would have like their little checklist and they'll be like, yeah, no, and you'd like be trying to look at what they had written about you, but obviously you can't. So at Leeds, that was the manual dexterity task. And then at another university I went to, it was more of a dentally related task. So we had to like string something around a rubber dam clamp. I don't know if you know what that is, but it's a very popular procedure in dentistry. So it's just to like tie a rubber dam clamp. And that was really, really difficult for me. And the main thing about that station is, I don't know if they wanted us to finish it or not, but we had to reflect afterwards on the work that we had done. So I felt really down about not being able to do the task properly because I felt like I should be able to do this, right? And I wasn't able to do it. So afterwards, it kind of affected the way I reflected about it, and I just felt really down. And so I kind of felt like I didn't do well on that station because I didn't reflect properly on what I'd done. So like I feel like my advice for people who are doing MMIs is when you finish one station, just forget about that station and move on to the next station, because they can only judge you on the one station that you've done, and then when you move on to the next station, that's a brand new person you're meeting. That's an opportunity to make a brand new first impression and show them why you should be a dentist and why you belong at their dental school. So just when you finish one station, just get it out of your mind, move on to the next station and try your best again, and don't let one thing get you down during your interviews.
That's such good advice, and honestly I wish I was told that before I actually did my MMI interviews, because unlike the traditional interview or the panel interview, all of the stations are independent. They're all independently marked, and the markers or the interviewees, they don't sit down and talk about like the candidates beforehand. So each station is like a new chance. And I remember like my first couple of stations, because I was getting into the groove of the MMI, I was nervous, I was all over the place. I remember they were my worst stations, or I thought they were my worst. And because I didn't like refresh my mind almost and remember that each station is independent, I carried on that kind of energy, that mindset that, oh my gosh, I've done so poorly, I must have failed, I must have completely flopped in this station, to the next station, and that must have affected my performance then. And it was more like a ripple effect. So exactly as you said, advice to anyone going into any form of interview, particularly the MMI, remember that each one is a new chance, and the new interviewee has not, your new interviewer has not seen your old MMI interview, has not spoken to your interviewer, and it's completely new. So just go for it, honestly, go for it. And yeah, amazing, that was so amazing, and thank you for kind of going over your admissions process and story and giving advice. I don't know, were you going to say something else?
I just wanted to add that with regard to manual dexterity, like obviously dentistry is a hands-on course.
Yeah.
Right? You need to be able to love working with your hands, and that's what sort of sets it apart from other healthcare courses, is that we're constantly, you know, working with our hands. It's quite a creative course as well. So like bear that in mind, because you want to be able to show them that you do enjoy working with your hands, whether it's in your personal statement or in your interview, that you do enjoy working with your hand, and that's one of the reasons why you're motivated to do dentistry.
Exactly, and amazing. And yeah, let's get started with answering some questions. Right, first one sent in by Sophie asks, why dentistry for you and why medicine for me? So do you want to go first, or shall I?
You go first. I want to hear your story. I want to hear why you went.
Oh gosh, see, I don't have like a powerful, emotionally provoking reason for wanting to do medicine. It was more like through a process of elimination, I realized that medicine was probably the best suited degree for me. So I went down a series of routes. So at one point I wanted to do economics, I wanted to do English. Before wanting to do medicine, I actually wanted to do chemistry. So I went to loads of summer schools and did loads of work experience related to that. And one of the experiences I remember the most was at Oxford. I did a chemistry unique summer school, and I remember just spending hours and hours in the lab, mixing chemicals around, although like it's fun for the first 10 minutes, doing it for 3, 4, 5 hours, I was getting fed up. And I remember going to the lectures and learning about physical chemistry, and I had no clue that a chemistry degree would then overlap with physics so much. So I was learning about quantum mechanics. Although it was interesting, it was not my cup of tea. I was learning about Schrodinger. I'm not sure if you're aware of like Schrodinger's cat, the wave function, whether the
Dead or alive.
Is it dead or like, it was interesting, but it was too much for me. It was too much for me. And I just remember not really, I enjoyed the summer school more for the social experience rather than the academic side of things. But luckily during my summer school, I ran into some of the medics which were currently studying at Oxford. And I remember speaking to them and asking them, oh, why medicine? Like, do you think medicine would be a good idea for me? And they just recommended me doing a series of work experience placements. And the more and more research I put into medicine, I realized that like all my skills and all my interests, they like combined in this course, if that made sense. So I'm very scientific. I love science, biology, chemistry. I did that for A level, and you do a lot of that, especially in the Oxford course. I'm hands-on, not very, very hands-on, but I like applying the knowledge I've learnt to practical situations. Again, medicine. I like talking, as you can probably tell from these live streams. Again, medicine's a really good career because you get a lot of patient contact. And yeah, that was just some of my reasons. I'm still in the process of deciding like what kind of doctor I want to be, whether I want to work in the hospital, GP practice, want to go into research any further, want to work abroad, want to do medicine in the end. Still deciding. But yeah, that was my why medicine. What about you? Why dentistry?
I would say, because I already spoke a bit about like work experience. I never knew about dentistry like growing up, in terms of the fact that I never knew that dentistry was a viable career or something that I could have done. Growing up, like if anyone asked me, oh Priscilla, what do you want to study? I'd be like, oh, medicine, because it sounded nice, because it sounded like it sounded like they would take me interesting. It sounded really respectable and things like that. So like growing up, I would always say, oh, I want to be a doctor. I want to be a doctor. I want to be a doctor. But I never really knew what that meant. In year 12, I really sat myself down and I was like, okay, Priscilla, what do you actually want to do? And that was when I realized, okay, I want to do something in healthcare, right? I want to impact people with regard to their health, right? Because health is one of the most important things that we could have. Like I'm sure like looking around you've seen like how important health is, and I wanted to go into something that people would find really, really meaningful. So I ticked the fact that I wanted to do a healthcare course, and then I did work experience in like a GP. I did work experience in surgery, and I did work experience in like other things as well. Like I would volunteer at a old people's home, volunteer at a hospice, the cafe in the hospice, and I just really liked that healthcare environment. And then it just happened that during one of my shadowing at a surgery, I was able to watch them remove a wisdom tooth, and in that surgery, I was able to talk to 2 dental students in that surgery. They were also shadowing the surgeon that was extracting the wisdom tooth. And I just started talking to them about dentistry, like what's it actually like? What's the work-life balance like? Why do you guys want to go into dentistry? And that was when like my eyes properly opened to like dentistry being a viable course. And another reason why, and this is actually the reason I spoke about in my personal statement, so you guys are getting the real tea about why
we're getting all the tea.
So, around that time, I had a family member who would get like who had a flare up with their wisdom tooth. This was not the first time the flare up had happened. It had happened before, but I never really took notice of it. It was like, oh, it's all right, like you'll be fine. And the tooth flared up again, but this time it was really bad because the cheek was swollen and they couldn't talk properly, they couldn't eat properly, like they couldn't open their mouth properly. And so it was just around this time that I really saw how oral health can really affect a person's life, can really affect like their social well-being and also like their health as well. And I also asked them if I could go to the dentist with them, and I was able to go to the dentist with them, and it was just really nice, like just having that exposure to dentistry and seeing just how dentistry could really, really impact the life of someone that I really love and really care about. And so, yeah, that was the reason why I went into dentistry, just because I want to make a difference in the lives of people through their oral health.
Wow, we love to see it. I was just mesmerized when you were speaking. And like you made such
Yeah.
important points about how like oral health and just dentistry, looking after the teeth, can make such a difference to people, a whole, like the whole body as a whole.
Absolutely.
Like any issues you have with your teeth, they can actually be debilitating, particularly with like wisdom tooth. And I remember we were speaking about this yesterday about how I had to have a root canal because I had like my
Yeah.
nerves were dying or something, and it wasn't to the point of being completely debilitating, but my tooth was so sensitive to the point where just drinking a glass of water sent me into like
Mm.
really painful brain freeze. And that's crazy, like just a
Mhm.
small part of your anatomy can have such impact. And I remember asking you this question yesterday about like how dentists, don't you get bored of doing doing like dentistry on just the mouth as opposed to like the whole body? And you gave a really good answer. Would you be able to like elaborate on it now, just in case anyone else was thinking the same?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I used to wonder the same thing as well. Like don't dentists just look at mouth all day? Like, is that not just what they do? But we actually do a lot more. Like, obviously, we do diagnose diseases of the mouth and treat diseases of the mouth. But it's almost like the mouth is linked to the entire body, right? So by taking care of the mouth, we're also taking care of the entire body. One example I can give is like gum disease can really affect somebody who has diabetes. Like, it can really affect somebody who has diabetes. And so by me being able to take care of their gums, I'm also indirectly affecting their diabetes, which can then help them not to, have further complications with their health. And there's a lot of links with the mouth and the rest of the body. And no, we do not get bored just looking at mouth all day. We do not get bored just looking at the teeth all day. It's a very specialist degree. It's a very specialist course, dentistry. It's like asking like a neurosurgeon, like, do you get bored of looking at the brain all day? Well, no, because they've studied the intricacies of the brain and they know everything about it. So they're in a very good position to be able to treat anything that goes wrong or right with the brain. And it's similar to dentistry in the sense that we are experts of the mouth. We are experts of things that are going on in the mouth. So we will be able to help treat anything that goes wrong and help people to maintain good oral health. And there are different specialities within dentistry, guys. Like, I didn't even know this before going into dentistry, but there are loads of different specialities. There's the rise of cosmetic dentistry that I don't know if you guys have seen a couple of YouTubers. They'll go to Turkey and they'll get their teeth done.
Whitens.
That is a part of dentistry. There's also like oral surgery. There is periodont periodontology. There is pedodontology. And there are just lots of different specialities, and they don't really take that long to train in. Usually it takes about 3 years to train in a dental specialty. So like, I think orthodontics is like 3 years. So you could do that for 3 years, and you could also do a couple of other dental specialities on the side. Well, it's very flexible in that sense.
I think that's a really appealing side of dentistry, because as opposed to medicine, we have to say if we want to go down we want to train to be a surgeon, so an orthopedic surgeon or cardiovascular surgeon, we have to then take 5 extra. So just to kind of speak through the training process, once you've actually qualified as a doctor from med school, you do 2 years of foundation training. After your 2 years of foundation training, you then do core training, your CT training, and that's around, I believe it's like 2 years, maybe I'm wrong, don't quote me. And then after that, when you decide what you want to specialize in, then that could take a further 7 years. So you could be a qualified consultant doctor in that specialism after 9 years. And as opposed to dentistry, that's like 3 times the length to become a specialized consultant in that field. So that like flexibility in dentistry is definitely very appealing.
Yeah, I remember when I was considering different courses, and someone told me something like the youngest you can be a consultant as a doctor is like age 35. And I was like,
it's around there.
35?
It's like 33, 35, unless you're a GP, because that's slightly shorter.
Okay, yeah. but that is a very long time to train. I mean, granted, you're like making money as you're training, and you can like take time out and things like that. But it's a very, very long time to train. But one of the things that was appealing to me as a dentist is that you can, you can be a general dentist, but you can the training is just much, much shorter. Like, for example, after 5 years of studying dentistry at dental school, we do our foundation training with the NHS, just like you guys, our foundation training, but it's only 1 year. And so after that, you're free to become a general dental dental practitioner. But you can do core training. So core training can either be 1 or 2 years, and you can do it in a bunch of different things. I plan to hopefully do mine in oral maxillofacial surgery, just for the 1 year, and then maybe go back to general dental practice. But after your core training, you can then go into specialty training, which is about 3 years. So as you can see, the training pathway is just much shorter and just much more direct and straightforward compared to other courses.
For sure. Right, moving on to the next category of questions, and a couple of people have been asking. This is more about the admissions. So to start off with, the admissions tests, and for both dentistry and medicine, we do the UCAT and the BMAT. For people interested in it, check the universities that you're interested in's website, because they'll tell you whether they'll need the UCAT or BMAT. But both Sophie and Firuza have asked, what tips do we have for the UCAT? And Firuza asks in particular, what tips do we have for decision making? And then we can go on to speak about the tips for the BMAT.
Okay. Yeah, so the UCAT, I feel like my biggest tip for that is just to practice as much as you can. Just practicing as much as you can, you'll start to build up the skills that you need to be able to get through the test, because it's a very weird and it's a very unusual test. So you really need to be able to like recognize questions, and you really need to be able to have techniques that you can stick to when you are under the time pressure and when you're doing the real test. So like, I know for abstract reasoning, every time I did it, I would like write down the shapes that I saw, so that when I was doing the test, I would be able to get quicker at recognizing the shapes and things like that. So just practice as much as you can. I used Medify to practice, and I found that was really good, because it's a website that basically simulates what the UCAT does, like the real test for the UCAT. And so I really, really liked that resource. I also use the 1250 UCAT book. I know that there's like an ISC one. Yeah, and Fran, I'm sure you know about that book. Yeah. So there's like a UCAT book. I use those as well, and I just practiced as much as I could. Yeah.
Yeah, literally what Priscilla said, they're my top tips. And I guess I can just add on that another thing that kind of revolutionized my preparation for these admissions tests is mastering when I best work, like finding the time that I best work and that my brain is most clear. I don't know if that makes sense, but with these exams, particularly the UCAT, actually, and the BMAT, which are very time pressured cognitive assessments, they're testing how fast you're able to process information and reason with it. The BMAT is more so, you can revise more for the BMAT, especially the section 2 and the section 3, but with the UCAT, you're being thrown random questions and it's testing your way of thinking. And what I found was that when I was going, everyone has a sort of productivity curve. When there's particular times of the day where you're most productive, you're able to think more clearly and effectively, as opposed to other times of the day. And I found that for me, in the morning was the time that I could bang out UCAT practice, and that would be the most effective time. Similarly, I found that when I was doing full mocks for the UCAT, for both exams, I think it's 2 hours, maybe, 2 hours. I found that the most effective time for me to do that was in the morning, because I had a fresh mind, I was most productive, and I was able to process information a lot quicker. And I found that I got greater scores. So then that meant that I went on to book my UCAT in the morning. I sat my UCAT on at 8 a.m. So I guess I can recommend to anyone watching this is kind of figure out the way you work. Are you more of a morning owl or a night owl? Try and do your UCAT preparation or your BMAT preparation in those times, because you're going to use your time more effectively, hence be more efficient with your time. Hopefully that makes sense. If it doesn't, let me know in the comment section. Just let me know. But do we have any tips for BMAT? Sorry?
You're a morning person.
See, the thing is, I'm not actually a morning person, But my brain is
Oh.
my brain is an entity of its own, and my brain is a morning. I don't know if that makes sense. Like, I hate waking up early, but I work best in the morning. I found, which
Okay.
sounds very counterintuitive. Like, why would I don't know. What about you?
I feel like I'm a mixture of both, but I tend to be, if I want to be really productive, I tend to wake up early in the morning. So sometimes I'll wake up at 6 a.m. in the morning,
Huh?
or like 6:30, so I can get a bit of work done before I start my day.
That's another
But
level.
I am the type
That's so
of
good.
person, I don't like to deprive myself of sleep. So like I will sleep when I need to sleep. So when it's getting to 11 or 12, I'm just in bed, like just trying to get some sleep because I don't like to deprive myself of sleep.
Oh, I wish I wish I was that disciplined. Like, I love sleep so much,
Yeah.
yet I still deprive myself of it. It doesn't make sense. I'm still trying to figure myself out.
That is a student lifestyle. Like we just cannot get it right, and that's
We
how it
can
just is.
not at all. And a bit of a tangent. Oh, this is so random. But we were speaking about whether we were morning owls or a night. Is it morning owls, night birds, morning bird? I don't know. But it just reminds
Night,
night owls and morning.
morning owl or morning. I don't know, night
Yeah,
owl or morning owl.
I think it's both
That's
owls.
what we're gonna.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it just reminds me of the merch that Unjada Jade released. And I remember at that
Oh
point, I
yeah.
was more of a night owl. Sorry, guys, this is a massive tangent. But like, because I preferred the orange color, which was the morning owl one, I just bought the morning owl one anyways, even though I wasn't a morning owl at that point. That was super random, but
Yeah.
just going with the flow. Cool. Do we have any tips for the BMAT exam? Anything that changed your
Yeah. So
preparation game?
I actually preferred the BMAT to the UCAT because I felt like I knew what I was
Really?
revising for. So like again, section one, there are books that can help you. So there's the ISC BMAT book that was really good to use to revise for the BMAT. There was also another book that I used. I can't remember. It's like a blue book. And it had some BMAT questions. If I can find it, I'll take a picture of it and I'll put it on Instagram so you guys can have a look. And also for section two, I just went over everything from GCSEs that I needed to know. So on the BMAT website, they have a specification that you can go through. So guys, go to the BMAT website and download the specification and highlight the points as you go along, as you revise it. So I use the CGP revision guides because they just really simplify what we need to know for GCSE knowledge. So I use the CGP revision guides, and if I didn't understand anything, I would just watch a video about it. And I actually took it very seriously. So Fran, I had a BMAT timetable, so that I would be able to know when to revise each section throughout the week and just keep really organized and keep on top of things, because I found that year 13, at least the beginning of year 13, was really, really quite hectic and quite stressful. And then for section 3, that's the essay section. And with that section, like a lot of people get quite worried about it because they feel like they don't know how to write an essay or things like that. But the question literally tells you what you need to do. So if you answer every single point in the question, then you will be able to get a good score in your BMAT. So answer the question that they've asked you, and also look out for your spelling, punctuation, and grammar, because it's very easy to get an A in that section. So why not get your A in that section? And then the third thing I would say about the essay is just to pick the best essay. Pick the one that you know you can write about. Don't just pick the one that sounds the most interesting or it sounds the hardest, thinking that you want to show the person reading it that you're an intellectual. No, pick the one that you know that you can write the most about. Pick the one that you know you have the most points about, and pick the one that you know that you can really frame your ideas in a very clear and concise way, so that when they read it, they can follow on and give you the best possible marks for your essay.
That was top notch advice. Honestly, wish I had that when I was writing my BMAT, because for me, I found the BMAT a lot harder than the UCAT, solely because it's I found it a harder paper, especially with the section 1. It was almost like the UCAT on steroids, But looking back now, advice I'd give to my former self and anyone watching this.
You can't.
No, honestly, don't you think it's like UCAT questions, but just 20 times unnecessarily harder? I just don't understand.
I don't know.
I don't know if you did the same BMAT as me. That's probably why. No, I'm joking.
Yeah.
But yeah, advice for section 1, it's very similar to preparing for the UCAT. So again, practice. I had the ISC BMAT book. It was a green book, and I found it a really helpful resource. I had it in my bag all the time, so when I was free at lunchtime or I was on the bus or something, just pull out my BMAT book, get a scrap piece of paper, do some practice questions. One thing I can say is practice questions that you're weaker at, because there are categories of different questions. You could probably find them online if you search them up. But I was particularly weaker at, to be fair, I can't remember. I was weaker at a lot of them. But one thing I can say is find people who you know in your friendship circle who are also doing the BMAT, who you know are better in those sections than you are, and ask them for help. Don't be afraid to ask them for help. Don't think that you're going to look stupid or you'll look like a beg asking for help, because if you don't ask, you don't get. And I remember there was a particular friend who just aced the BMAT, and I used to send questions to them and ask them to speak through how they found the answer, so I could just see how their brain was working. And the more and more I did that, the more and more I was then able to copy that same way of reasoning and then be able to answer those questions more effectively and correctly. For section 2, I was the exact same as Priscilla. I used the CGP revision guide. Honestly, saves you so much time. You don't need to find resources for yourself. Just use this guide and practice questions. For section 3, which is the essay, I recommend you don't have to do tons and tons of practice essays. Practice planning your essays, because honestly, time is of the essence in your BMAT, and if you can save an extra 5 minutes in your planning and put that towards the actual writing, it will help you so much. So I just planned so many essays, and the ones that I did write, I would always give to either other people who are applying to medicine, my science teachers to check the scientific content, or my English teachers to check the grammar, the structuring and all that. If your teachers are ops and they refuse to mark, like, I don't know why they'd be refusing to help you, but if they do, report them. Don't report them, but
no,
actually, report them, because they should be willing to help you.
Enemies,
honestly,
be able to help you.
Imagine, like, I'm preparing for my exam. Could you read this essay? No. What kind of behavior is that? But feel free to message me or Priscilla. I'm sure, like, if we have time, we'll try our best to read through some of your essays. Another thing is be conscious of time, because in the actual BMAT, I ran out of time for my essay, and I think they're very strict on punctuation and stuff like that. And I actually didn't finish the sentence that I was on. So, like, for the rest of the day, I was so paranoid that would have affected the ABC grade, the grammar grade. But it didn't in the end. I ended up getting 3.5A in that, which was good. Yeah, that's good. Cool. And
that's good. Yeah.
Quickly to answer Farouza's question, because I realised that she asked in particular for decision making of the UCAT. Do you have any particular advice for decision making?
So when I did the UCAT, mine was decision analysis, so it's slightly different. So I'm sure, like, when you did yours, it would have been decision making.
Yeah, mine was decision making.
Yeah, so I don't have any tips for that, because I personally have not done decision making. Mine was decision analysis.
Oh, okay. So decision making wasn't one of my strongest, but I did okay in it. Advice I can recommend, especially for your what are they called, Venn diagram questions, is, especially if you have whiteboard, always draw the Venn diagram and do it for yourself. I found that was a very good way of visualizing everything that was going on, being able to put the information on pieces of paper, and the sort of questions where you're asked, okay, Julie is sat next to Ben who likes ice cream, and then the question is, who likes tomato sauce? I don't know if you're getting what, but those sort of questions, again, it really helps to write things down, have set diagrams and shapes that you're accustomed to, so that you're able to easily translate information that's written to visual information. I'm a visual learner, so me and diagrams are best friends, and they honestly help me to save time and effectively answer the questions. Hopefully that helps. There are plenty of videos as well that I'd recommend for the UCAT, namely the Journey to Med video series. So Journey to Med are two of my favorite girls, like, and they did a series covering every single unit on the UCAT. So I'll put that in the description bar below. We'll just search it in after this live stream. Don't go yet. Right, let's move on to the next question, which is about personal statements. Both Firuza and Irene ask, how do you start your personal statement and how do you structure the personal statement?
Oh, the personal statement.
The
All right,
personal statement.
that's a really good question. Yeah. Um, so I feel like all in all, your personal statement needs to be reflective, right? You don't want it to be just a bunch of bullet points that say, "Oh, I want to study dentistry. I did work experience. I have hobbies. Goodbye." Like it's not supposed to be like that. You really need to be able to reflect and make it really personal to you. So when I started my personal statement, I wrote about the personal story, like the story about how my family member was affected by their dental health, and I really made it personal. But I also used it to show them why, like show them through my lens why I really wanted to study dentistry, and also show them that because I have seen such good example of dental health, I want to be able to do that as well. So that's how I framed my introduction. And then after my introduction paragraph, I started talking about my work experience. So I saw a lot of things during my work experience, and I just really reflected on on what I saw the dentists do. I reflected on the skills that I saw them demonstrate, and then I reflected on the fact that these are important skills to have as a dentist and why they're important to have in order to bring about good patient care. And then I went on to talk about the other things that I'd done outside of school, but the academic things that I did outside of school. So one of them was like my Nuffield placement that I did. And that was all about like renal transplantation and things like that. I just put that in there because I thought it sounded cool. Um, but one of the things that I did that was related to dentistry was a Future Learn dentistry course. So I would recommend anyone applying to dentistry to check out the Future Learn Discovering Dentistry course. It's run by the University of Sheffield. So I wrote about how that course has really informed me about dentistry. And then I talked about my volunteering work. And I talked about how the people that I'd met during my volunteering work had really helped me to see that I wanted to do something that was healthcare related. Again, just reflecting and highlighting the skills that I had seen. And then I talked about my hobbies. So I know like dentistry is quite a stressful degree to do, so they want to see that you have interests outside of dentistry. They want to see that you have hobbies. They want to see that you have things that you're doing outside of dentistry that help to shape your manual dexterity skills. And so I wrote about that. And then my conclusion was just pulling everything together and just letting them know that I understand the realities of dentistry, but I know that I'm a good candidate. I know I'm a suitable candidate, and I am ready to study dentistry. So that's what I wrote about in my conclusion. And I feel like your personal statement has to flow as well. Try not to repeat things that can, one, you can mention in a different way, and two, that you can mention as a reference. Remember, your teachers are going to be writing a reference on your behalf. So if there's something you can't fit in your personal statement, let them know and they can write it as a reference, and universities will still read it and they'll still know about the amazing things that you are doing. So yeah, that's what I did for my personal statement.
Wow, strong. How to structure a personal statement in a nutshell. That was amazing. Thank you so much for that advice. And
Yeah,
so interesting to see how much overlap and how similar like writing a personal statement for medicine is to dentistry, because the structure for a
yeah,
medicine personal statement is the exact same. They want to see they want to see work experience, they want to see a lot of reflection, a lot of show don't tell, they want to see what you learnt from the experiences that you had as opposed to a fat list of experiences that you did. They also want to see that you're able to understand the realities of the career as far as an 18-year-old can, and that you're able to demonstrate that you have stress coping mechanisms and activities that you can do to make sure that you have a work-life balance. Exact same thing. And I also summarize my personal statement by I understand that medicine is difficult, but I'm willing to rise to the challenge. I feel as though
I'm ready.
a lot of people use that conclusion.
Yeah,
The admissions tutors are probably
it's the
reading
best
it like,
way.
oh my gosh, not another one.
Yeah, they must read a lot of personal though. I was, because I did a summer school. I was working on a summer school during the summer, and me and part of the team managed to read 100 personal statements together, and so it was a mix of medicine and dentistry personal statements, and we were able to help lots of year 12 students going into year 13 get their personal statements done. And I kid you not, they started on like Tuesday on their personal statements, and most of them were finished by Saturday. Like, they didn't even take that long to finish their personal statement. They started with putting ideas in a table, and afterwards they would send it to us and we would check it, we would give advice, send it back to them, they would write their personal statement, send it to us, and by Saturday a lot of them were done and dusted with their personal statements. But I'm saying that because I got to read a lot of personal statements, and I got to see a lot of like similarities. I got to see a lot of ways that different people present their ideas, and I got to see that a lot of year 12 students really they really missed out on getting really good work experience because of the coronavirus. So it was really good to see like different students like having done like a virtual work experience, or like really pulling from their extracurricular to write in their personal statement and linking it to dentistry. So yeah, that was really interesting to do over summer.
That is so like rapid to complete your personal statement. I know in my case, to be fair, I was kind of chilling, not going to lie. I was doing it alongside other things, but I must have started towards the end of summer, around now. The way I started my personal statement was literally just bombarding Microsoft Word with everything and anything I could think about. And before I knew it, I was up to like 6,000 characters of just waffle with pieces of gems in between. And I think I found the hardest part of actually the process of writing my personal statement was the cutting down element, which we could speak about later, or like we've probably like had videos about this. You actually find that you have way too much to speak about in your personal statement. So anyone watching this right now, especially those who had their work experiences cancelled, you will find that there are so many other alternative things that you can do. As Priscilla mentioned, she spoke about the Future Learns, which is a website where you can do online courses for free. She spoke about virtual work experience. So I know is it Brighton and Sussex? They've been doing a virtual work experience course, and that's free as well. Aspire GPs is another virtual work experience. There are books that you can read. You can talk about your A-levels, and you'll find that you have too much to talk about. So honestly, don't be scared about like writing your personal statement. Just start. That's my best advice. Just start writing anything and everything. Don't think that you have to write your introduction to start off with. I wrote my introduction towards the end of the process because it is often the hardest bit to write, because it has to be the best and most engaging part of your statement. And
it needs to catch the attention.
For sure. But don't feel pressure to almost invent a story. Like, if you have a story that you can include, especially in your introduction, go for it. Like, make it personal, as Priscilla did, and that will make your personal statement stand out so much. But if you don't have anything, for example, in my case, I couldn't think of like a story I could include, don't force it. Please don't lie about it. Just, you don't need to do it. Don't lie about it.
Like, bad idea.
Just don't lie.
Especially because we have interviews, okay? Other courses, some other courses don't have interviews, but we have interviews. So sooner or later, you're going to sit in front of someone and they're going to say, oh, you wrote about this in your personal statement. Can you talk about that? And you're going to be like, I don't know. So do not lie. Make sure everything you say in your personal statement, you can back up and you can talk about if you are asked about it.
Yeah. Honestly, everything that she said. Next couple of questions are about university life and like what your course looks like. So Jennifer asks, do you interact with other students? Do you have lectures with each other? I assume she means, do you interact with medics, and do I interact with dentists, and do we have like cross lectures with each other?
So do you want to go first?
Oh, yeah. My answer is going to be pretty short because at Oxford, we don't actually have a dental school. So it means that we don't actually see any dentists. But from what Priscilla will go on to say, as she told me beforehand, there's a lot of overlap in the course material that you learn. I was surprised to hear that the dentists actually learn about anatomy as anatomy, like as well as like just the mouth area of the body as well. That was quite surprising to me. But yeah, Priscilla, do you interact a lot with any medical students at Leeds?
Yeah, so Leeds has like Leeds gets medical and dental students, but we don't actually have lectures together. So because the courses are quite intense, they're separate, but a lot of our content does overlap. So like we learn a lot about the anatomy of the body. We learn a lot about the different diseases. So like we go into a lot of detail about like the blood, about diabetes, about obesity, about the eyes. I remember having lectures about the eyes, and I was like, "Am I on the right course?" Because like, why am I learning so much about the eyes? But like, we learned so much. We in first year we have lectures with dental hygiene and therapy, because a lot of what we learn in first year is quite similar. But then they graduate before us because I think their course is just about 3 years. So they graduate before us, and we're still there for 5 years. But in terms of content, we have to know a lot, because if there's something going on wrong with your patient, you need to be able to deal with that in the dental chair, and you need to be able to manage a patient's like medical history and things like that. So yeah.
That's definitely really interesting to learn. And it kind of again just goes to show how much variety there is in dentistry, which is really amazing
Mm-hmm.
to hear. Next question sent in is about, we're going back to the A level days. Revision techniques for biology and chemistry.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. So I guess I can quickly start. For me, I found biology and chemistry, I didn't find it easy, but I hammered exam technique. And this was back from GCSE days where I learnt about the secret of mastering exam techniques and how much it can impact on your grades. And I discovered a program called Exam Pro, which is basically a resource where AQA have actually compiled every single question that has ever been asked on every single topic for most of their GCSEs. Not all of them, but a lot of the courses. And they do the same for A levels, and they did it for biology and chemistry, AQA A level. So, what my revision would technically look like would be 20% of the time I was actually learning the content and actually getting familiar with the content, and 80% of the time I was actually testing my knowledge in the form of exam questions, because at the end of the day the exam you're going to be marked by an examiner, and you need to know how that examiner, what kind of answers that examiner will expect, what kind of answers will get you full marks, what kind of answers will get you no marks at all. And it's really, really sad that with these A levels, it's less so a test of your understanding and your intelligence, but rather a test of how much of the exam technique have you mastered. And I found that really, really helped through GCSE and A level. So it's amazing to learn the content and definitely understand it. It will help you at university and just for your personal interest in the subjects, but definitely spend a lot of time in past papers. They were my best friends. Just past papers. Exam pro. Exam pro. What about yourself, Priscilla?
Yeah. Yeah, I just want to echo what you said. Like, exam technique is very, very important, because if you know the content, but the examiner is looking for that exact key, like a
A
keyword in the
keyword.
answer, and you don't write that word, then you're not going to get the mark. So you really need to be able to master, like when you sit down to do your exam, that should not be the first time that you're doing the exam. You should have already done it like 10, 20s, like 30 times already, like practiced a lot of past papers, so that when you're sitting down to write it in your exam, you're just going through your exam technique and you're just pouring all your knowledge down onto paper. I think another thing is just to master your time management skills during your A levels, because that could be the difference between you working hard and working smart. And so
Word,
like
word.
just because you're working all the time does not mean that you are doing anything. Like, make sure that every single time that you revise, you test yourself, so that you know that what you've revised has gone in your head and it's gone in your long-term memory. Okay, so make sure that you're testing yourself all the time, and make sure that you're using your free periods wisely as well. Like, just,
Whoa, that's such a good
yeah,
point.
coming guys, yeah, like, because I remember during sixth form, sometimes I would just sit in the sixth form center and like just not do work. But I like, you need to do work during your free periods as well, so that when you go home you can take a break and you can actually relax. So yeah, and also take care of yourself during sixth form. Like I know, like I look back at sixth form and I can't believe how I got through that, because it was just so much stress. So make sure you're taking care of yourself. Like you've got your family behind you, supporting you, you're eating well, you're also still socializing as well, so that it doesn't take a toll on your mental health. But yeah, just make sure you're working smart and not just working hard. So do those practice papers, and also make sure that your teachers are supporting you as well. Some people might say, oh, you're being a teacher's pet when you go to your teacher during their lunchtime just to double check a question, but you're not being a teacher's pet. You're looking after your education, right? So make sure like you don't feel bad for doing these things, and just like go for it. Just give it your all when you're doing sixth form, so that at the end you'll be able to reap the benefits.
Yes, that's on period. And even if you are a teacher's pet and you
Yeah.
know it, be proud. I was a teacher's pet and I'll claim that. I was the person who would
Yeah,
go to my teacher and ask for extra help, go to my teacher and ask for the exam pro login, go to my teacher and remind them that we have homework. I was that person, and it paid off in the end. So never feel ashamed that you're taking your education seriously, as Priscilla said. And it's so important to look after your mental health, bro, because A-levels are stress. They are stress.
Exactly.
And it's also important to note that find a support system that you feel confident speaking to. That might be friends, that might be teachers, family, but make sure that you have people you can go to and that you don't keep like all the emotions inside, because honestly, like year 12, year 13 is a stressful period in itself. So make sure you've got the support systems and structures there for you. Amazing. Final couple of questions, because like Priscilla, actually, do you need to like do anything at the moment, or are you happy to stay and answer a few more questions?
I'm happy to stay. I'm
Cool.
happy to stay and answer a few more. Yeah.
Okay, let's go. Right, next question sent in by Visualize. This is a quick one. If not dentistry, then what would it be?
If not dentistry, then I feel like I'd be a pilot.
Really? That's interesting. That's so interesting. To be fair, it's a lot of like manual dexterity too, like using your hands.
I just think it's so cool, like being able to like drive planes and things like that. So yeah.
That's so sick. Next question. Okay. Next one sent in by TF asks, "Are you scared of the dentist suicide rates?" Now, I actually didn't know that this was an issue. Would you be able to like elaborate on this?
Yeah, so yeah, this is a really good one, because like the rate of suicide is quite high in dentistry. Like even unfortunately during lockdown, I heard about a dentist that actually took their own life, and that was the thing that was going around in the dental Instagram community, and that really like hit home about like how common it is for dentists to take their lives. And like there are lots of different reasons, but one of them is the stress of the of being a dentist. Is quite a stressful like thing to go into, and sometimes because a lot of patients are scared of the dentist, they will put that fear and those expectations on you, and that puts more stress on you. So I feel like it's just highlighted how important mental health is, not just in dentistry, but in any course that you go into, in any career that you go into. But it's just helped me to sort of prepare myself a little bit more, and you know, take into account that it is important to have friends that also do dentistry who can support you. It is important to go to the gym, or like have an outlet when dentistry is getting a bit too much for you. I felt like in first year I was a bit too much of a workaholic. I used to say no all the time when like people would ask me to go out and things like that. But I feel like in fourth year I started to say yes a bit more. I started to, you know, try to socialize a bit more, and just try to enjoy being a student, which had a better positive impact on my mental health. But yeah, that is quite scary to think about, dentistry being quite high in terms of suicide rates. And we because we know this, hopefully we are able to like there are things going on that is helping us to cope with our mental health. So I know, like, on Instagram, I've been seeing a lot of pages dedicated to. There's a page called Drill and Chill that is basically just about what do you do outside of dentistry so that you're able to chill out.
Yeah.
And like other mental health dentistry pages. So yeah.
Yeah, that's so interesting to hear, and I feel as though over the past couple of years, the stigma surrounding mental health, particularly mental health in healthcare, is slowly kind of going and washing away. And it's so important that as future healthcare practitioners, that we look after ourselves before we're able to then go on and look after others. And it's just crazy to hear about the stories of how common mental health problems and issues are within healthcare. But it's so amazing that this is all emerging now, because we can then go on as future doctors, dentists, we can go on to educate ourselves as to what we can do now to prevent that happening in the future, and also what signs to look out for in our peer dentists and doctors, so that later on we'll be able to support them. That's so crazy.
Yeah, it is. It is.
We'll go on to the next question. Next one sent in by TF as well, and she asks, why not pharmacy? Maybe this is a question for both of us. So yeah, why not pharmacy?
Oh, that's a really good one. I think I'll admit I didn't really like look into pharmacy like enough. I know that it's a really, really good course to go into. Like, my sister does pharmacy and she really enjoys it, but I just didn't really like look into it like that much. I knew that I wanted something that was more caring for patients, like building a treatment plan for a patient, and then going into helping them through that treatment plan. And and I feel like the courses that I was looking for had to be a lot more patient centered. And so what I'd already seen from pharmacy is that it wasn't that patient centered, from what I could see.
Yeah, that's a really, really thought out answer. Mine's less thought out. I just didn't know as much about it. I'd never heard of any pharmacy students like on the YouTube scene, which is something I looked up to quite a bit. And yeah, I didn't really think about it. And it's quite interesting because in medicine, and I assume in dentistry a lot as well, sorry, there are pharmacy modules or pharmacology modules, which probably overlap with what pharmacy students study. So we do kind of get to dabble in the pharmacy world as well, which I find quite interesting. And in my third year, I can actually do research projects, and I'm interested in doing some in pharmacology, which is kind of drugs and how that affects the body. And so I guess I kind of get to do a little bit of pharmacology and pharmacy. Next question sent in by Biraj, and this one's for you, Priscilla. I'm applying to dental school this year, and I've been wondering what I could do throughout the year to make myself more to make myself stand out more in my personal statement and also in my interview. He's on gap year because he has a lot of time, and the reason why he went on gap year was because in his interview he crumbled under pressure and wasn't able to compose himself well. Are there any tips that we could give about how to improve the interview situation? So, big question there. I guess the first part of it is the gap year. What could he do during his time to improve his personal statement and make him stand out more?
Yeah, okay. So because you're taking a gap year, you're in a very, very good situation, because you can do things that a year 13 student would not have the time to do. So I would suggest trying to find a place where you can do a long-term dental work experience. Maybe you could go every week, like once a week, twice a week, just to shadow at the dental practice, and that will really help to make your personal statement stand out. I would say also pick up a new, cool and quite different hobby that can help to make your personal statement stand out. It could be anything that links with your manual dexterity, and it's just something that is quite impressive, that you think that an admissions tutor would read and be like, oh wow, that is really, really cool. Maybe if you already play the piano, just like increase your skills on the piano, or if you already play the guitar, like increase your skills playing that. So that's another way to stand out. And also I would say like just do lots more work experience, not just related to dentistry, but also long-term work experience in other healthcare situations. So like, for example, like working in a care home, or like hospitals. You can also like volunteer in a hospital as well. If there's any way to help out related to COVID-19 or related to the coronavirus, do that, because it just shows that you're taking initiative in a very strange time like this. So those are some ways that you can stand out in your personal statement. What was the other question that he asked, or
About
they
his
asked?
interviews. So one of the reasons why I think he had to take an interview was because a gap year is because he didn't do too well in interviews. He gets nervous and can't really compose himself. So kind of advice for how to stay confident in the interview.
Yeah, okay. So like, before I went to my interview, I actually made a booklet of the things that I could expect in the interview. And so that just helped me to be more prepared for my interview. So in my booklet, I wrote down examples of things that I would talk about. So like, for example, I already told you guys that I worked in a hospice. And in the booklet, I wrote bullet points of things that I could talk about from my hospice experience. And I would then in the interview try to relate it to the question that they had asked. So I would practice saying these to myself in front of a mirror. I would record myself. I'd make my family sit down and listen to me as I spoke, just so that I would feel more confident talking about myself and talking about my experiences, and that really, really helped. And also just practicing your interview skills. I was quite fortunate because um, my school helped to do like a mock interview with me, and that helped me to be more confident with my interview skills. And also just, I know it sounds quite cliche, but try to be confident during your interview, because dental schools actually need dental students. Like, they're not trying to chase you away. They need you to come and study at their university. So,
Exactly.
yeah, so like, try to be confident and just try to show them that you are a suitable dental student. And like, if they ask you a question, you don't have to answer straight away. You can, say something like, "Oh, okay,"
That's an
and
interesting question.
use that second. Yeah, that's an interesting question. Oh, I think in response to your question, I think that, and use that time to think, and then frame your answer in a way. Frame your answer so that you can answer what they have said. Another tip I had for interview at the time
She's just
was to use the
dropping gems right
PEE.
now.
Yeah, to use the PEE technique. So point, evidence, explain. So I would say a point, and then I would evidence it with my work experience. And then I would explain it and link it to how it links back to dentistry. So that really helped me answer a lot of interview questions. And also, there are just different techniques for interviews, like for MMIs and things like that. So speak to people who have applied to that university, ask them what it was like, ask them what stations they had, right? And ask them, what tips they would give, so that you can be more prepared for your interview.
That was amazing. Like, I don't think I can add anything else. Like, that was just so complete, comprehensive advice. And I'm sure it's going to help everyone watching this live stream right now. I'd just like to kind of follow up on what you said about practicing, because honestly, there's so much power in practicing being in an interview setting and speaking in a more formal way. Because as 17, 18, 19 year olds, that's not something that we're accustomed to. Like, at that point, the only interview I'd ever had was my interview for my part-time job at McDonald's, and that, there's a stark difference in the standards and what's expected of you. So if you can, before your interview, if you could put yourself in that almost pressurized environment as many times as you possibly can, you would be more prepared, and when you start your interview, you're less likely to feel nervous because you've experienced it before. And again, with like Priscilla, my school, I was fortunate enough to have a mock interview that I actually organized with my teacher myself. So if you're at a school that doesn't do it, try and independently do it. Be proactive about things like this, because again, if you don't ask, you won't receive. And that interview, for me, I was sweating because I did nothing like that before. I was not used to not speaking in slang, because with my friends, you speak a certain way, you speak a lot more
I
informally,
know.
you use a lot
It's
more slang.
hard from like one situation to another situation.
It's so hard, and it almost feels unnatural. So in that setting, like, it just took me that much more brain power to speak, because I wasn't used to it. So if you can practice that as soon as possible, you'll find yourself a natural in the interview room. And one thing that I used to be told, in order to allow me to feel more confident in settings like that, is just remember that the person interviewing you is a person, just as much of a person as you are. Like, that they, a bit of TMI right now, they pee, they go to the toilet just as you
Yeah,
do, you know, like, thinking like that, thinking about like the person in front of you in just a really like not natural, but very like almost embarrassing setting, almost helped me to feel more confident, because I was like, oh wait, they're actually normal, they're normal just like me. And just reminding yourself that they're not there to catch you out. The most of them are not there to catch you out. Some of them are probably there to catch, but the majority of them want you to do well, and they want you to succeed, and they want you to give amazing answers. So just keep that in mind, and it really pushes you on to feel more confident in your interview. Yeah. Right, final question, because we're approaching the 1 hour 20-minute mark. And again, this is for you, Priscilla. And this is
oh,
this is all about dentistry. Like, the comments are being bombarded with dentistry questions.
great. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I think there was an extra one after this. I'm sorry. Okay, this one. Okay. Hey, I'm
Okay.
interested in studying dentistry. How is the course? Do you have any tips on applying and getting in universities in the UK? I guess you've like spoken about this for the whole live stream, so you can like quickly summarize your top tips for each of the questions. So, kind of, how is the course, and what tips do you have on applying and getting in?
Yeah, okay, so how is the course? I've enjoyed it so far. I feel like it's the right balance between being very intellectually stimulating, but also hands-on and really creative. One of my favorite things about studying dentistry is that from first year, you get to start going on clinics, and even a couple of people in my year from first year started treating patients. So it's very fast, and also like it's very, very hands-on. So if you're quite a creative person, you'll really enjoy dentistry. Even if you're not a creative person, the main point of the degree is to teach you how to use your hands to be able to make different dental treatments. So you will learn it alongside as you go through the course. So yeah, I've really enjoyed the course. And in terms of tips for applying, I would say when applying to universities, apply strategically. Okay, try to apply strategically, and this is what I did, and I think this is what helped me to get three dentistry offers and my biomed offer. You will have different statistics. So you have your A levels, you will A level predicted grade, you have your UCAT score, you may have a BMAT score, and you have your personal statement. Look at what different universities are looking for. So some universities really take your UCAT into account. So if you did all right in your UCAT, or if you did really well in your UCAT, chances are that you will get an interview from that university. But there are some universities that have a cutoff, and if you apply to that university, you may not get an interview. So like, try to apply strategically. There are some universities that really take your personal statement into account. So make sure your personal statement is strong, so that when you apply there, you know, they will be impressed by your personal statement. And so yeah, that's my biggest tip for applying to dentistry.
Awesome. Such great advice once again. And now the final question of today's live stream, and this has been sent in by PYW. Were there any study abroad options for you during your study in dentistry? So I know that in medicine, in
Oh,
our last couple of years, we have like an elective where we can go off abroad, usually to like third world countries, and actually study medicine there, usually like tropical medicine, stuff like that. Is there something similar in dentistry?
that is such a good question, because I was supposed to have my elective at the end of fourth year. So I was supposed to have my elective this summer. But because of Corona and COVID, nobody was traveling anywhere, so I couldn't go for my elective.
I'm
But
so
yes, we
sorry.
do have study abroad. Yeah, I know. We do. We do study abroad options. There is a girl on YouTube called You One Day Dental. She went on a study abroad to Ghana, and she was able to like volunteer in Ghana for a couple of weeks, and that was really inspiring for me to watch. And I wanted to do something similar to that. So check out her YouTube channel. And I think there's another one called Dent Life, and she also did an elective as well. For dentistry. So yeah, these opportunities are available. I will also say, depending on the university you go to, there will be general study abroad opportunities. So last year I went to Germany to study German. I don't know why. I just felt like studying German, and
Guten Tag. I'm joking. I don't know
school,
any German.
Yeah, it was for 4 weeks, and it was just a really fun way to like go to a different country and learn a different language. So it just depends on the university that you go to. And another thing to mention is that we do have intercalation opportunities in dentistry. So you can go to as you're studying throughout the 5 years, you can go to another university in the UK to study something completely different to dentistry. So business, clinical anatomy, ethics, just anything else that you might be interested in. And then you can come back to your university to finish your degree. Interestingly enough, there's actually someone on my course who, like, they did medicine and they did dentistry. And during dentistry, they intercalated and they're set to graduate in my year. And I just thought that was quite such a long route to take, but they want to be an oral maxillofacial surgeon. So that is just such a long but such an incredible thing to do if you're really interested in like academia and also treating diseases of the head and the neck.
I was just counting the number of years that person must have been in education, and I think I've lost fingers.
Yeah.
What? That
Yeah.
is commitment. That is honesty commitment. That's so interesting. First time I've heard of that. How old are they?
I wanted to do that first year. I don't know. I've never asked. I wanted to do that in first year. I wanted to do Max Fax in first year. And I joined the oral maxillofacial surgery like society. But then after taking my first set of exams, I was like, actually, I don't think I can revise like all the time. Like for the next couple of years. So I think I'll finish dentistry first and I'll see what I'm going to do when I graduate.
We'll cross that bridge when it gets to it. Honestly, kudos to that person who's gone through both med school and dental school. Like, that's mad. I don't know how they still have hair on their head. But yeah, what an amazing way to end today's live stream. We actually managed to get through all the questions, and there are still people watching this, which is crazy because we've been going for 80 plus minutes. But yeah, I just wanted to end this live stream by saying biggest thanks to Priscilla. Thank you to you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to come on here and live stream with me. You've been awesome, treat. And everyone in the comment section will probably agree. You've been amazing in the advice that you've given. So thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. Like, this was really, really fun to do. This is my first live event, so I really enjoyed it. So thank you, Fran, for having me.
No problem.
And well done to you for organizing all these live events. Like, girl, you have been on it with all these people that you have been interviewing and just trying to like give insight into younger students on the different types of courses available to them, which is something I never had, growing up. So like, thank you for organizing these for everyone.
Oh, thank you. That's so sweet. And honestly, like, this was one of the live streams I was looking forward to, because not only would it have been like educational to everyone watching, but also to me, because as you could probably tell from like our conversations, I didn't really know that much about dentistry. So these have been so educational, amazing, and we've had a great time. So yeah, thank you to you and to everyone in the comment section, everyone watching as well. You've been so amazing. Thank you for the engagement. And we're actually in our last week of live streams. There's just 2 more until I've finished, but they've been so amazing and I've enjoyed it so much. But yeah, I guess we'll conclude this live stream by just wishing you the best rest to your Monday. Make sure you're resting, doing what you have to be doing, and yeah, just have a lovely evening, and we'll see you in the next live stream. Bye.
Hey, bye guys.
Bye.